All right, well, let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek Podcast. Wrapping up a long and fun week in North and South Carolina. It's been great. I've met some awesome people on this trip and just really had a lot of fun. And we are winding down. And thank you guys for being so flexible with your schedule. I appreciate that. I'll tell you what, we'll start and we'll just let you introduce yourself, who you are, your company, maybe rattle off a little bit about what you do.
Sure. My name's Phil Lail, and our company is American Screw. Tim White is our national sales manager and the one that helped us really do the research and find out what we needed to do to get into some of this garage, carport, shed industry, which you see them on Interstate 40 in North Carolina driving down the road every day, and you're just now we count how many screws we see when they go up and down the road every day.
Somebody's putting those together, right? So how are they doing it?
That's right.
Yeah.
We started Pan American in 1957 as a spinoff of a company in Canada called Robertson. So if your listeners and viewers out there have ever used a square drive screwdriver, then the Robertson square drive was the first recess invented after the slot. So the Phillips drive recess came after the square drive Robertson.
Really?
And a lot of the old Model A's, I think they were, that Henry Ford built, were all made with the Robertson square drive screws. Long story short.
Nice. I love the history.
That's kind of
awesome.
how we got into this. And, we have locations in Hayward, California. Today you're with us here in Conover, North Carolina, which is just outside of Hickory. So this 100, 200-mile radius of where we're at right now, 25 years ago was the furniture mecca of the world. A lot of that since moved offshore. And Tim and I both have come to Pan American by some avenue that had something to do with the furniture industry. So we're happy to have you here. We're not a small company. We're owned by Uncle Warren Buffett, which is Berkshire Hathaway, and then we are part of a large group of construction fastener companies through the Marmon Group. So we have Pan American Screw as a brand. Deerwood Fasteners is a brand that's well known in the cabinet and woodworking industry. Co-op Screw, which Tim was telling you a little bit about before. We make a lot of specialty fasteners, MTOs we call them, primarily made to order for a specific application for the window and door industry. So if you're looking at either wood or vinyl replacement windows, most of those larger manufacturers are using our fasteners in that. There's Big Timber Fasteners, which is headquartered out in beautiful Billings, Montana. We do a lot there with structural fasteners, decking related, most anything outdoor related. And then we have Atlas Bolt and Screw, which is another sister company, another brand that we work with here that Tim has done a very good job with. It's screws for metal buildings, so attaching metal roofing to wood studs or metal studs or something like that. We have other products like caulking and closure and all the ancillary items that go with that particular application. So I feel like I've missed something, Tim. What is it I missed?
The breadth of product is so large, it's hard to really bring all of it into focus. But primarily with this particular industry, we've been successful with our Atlas line, which is, as you said, our metal cladding type product, and then the ancillary items that go with it, ridge vent, closure, things of that nature. And then also our Big Timber line, which we're finding more and more opportunities for our construction lag screws with Torx drive and exterior coating. So those have been very, very popular with our local shed manufacturers. And we've kind of become, and I hate to use the terminology, but I will, a one-stop shop for fasteners for them, because before they were going to 3 or 4 different companies, and they've come to find out here locally that everything they require is in this building. You've seen the building. It's I hope you would say it's quite impressive.
Very much so. We'll take a few shots and maybe some video and throw that in for those that are watching on YouTube. But yeah, product is top to bottom, left to right, and yeah, plenty of. I don't think you guys are running out of anything. I don't see them anytime soon.
Not anytime soon for sure. But it's a market that we already have the product on the floor for, and we think it's a natural fit. We're unique in the respect that we are first and foremost a manufacturer, but we distribute our own goods. And by calling ourselves a manufacturer, it's truly our manufacturing facility. It's our group's manufacturing facility. We're not cutting POs to people overseas with the hopes that we, A, get it, and B, get it correctly. It is our own manufacturing facility. We have, I think Phil sees it on a weekly basis. He sees the complete manufacturing schedule, and we can move it around to accommodate our and our customers' needs. So it's at our disposal to use as we see fit. But again, we have several different boards that we have countertop screws, and we think that the majority of them will fall in our Atlas line and our Big Timber line.
Nowadays, there seems to be so much to choose from when it comes to offering rent-own. So many companies have all these promotional items that go along with the rent-own program. It's hard to know where the rent-to-own program ends and the shed company begins. At Country Classic Rentals, we believe in doing business the old-fashioned way. Old-fashioned doesn't mean we're not capable. It means we still value a handshake. And we believe when you say something, your word means something. There was a time when you could look someone in the eyes and say what you mean and mean what you say. We have built our company from that philosophy. At Country Classic Rentals, you can be confident that when you produce an RTO contract for your customer, we will make sure that the customer is taken care of when they become our customer. Country Classic Rentals is ready to have exploratory phone calls with shed companies in Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, and Tennessee looking to partner with a trusted and resourceful RTO partner. If you're looking for an RTO partner who will work for you, give us a call at 937-483-4588 or call toll-free at 800-649-5667. Just ask for Stan, and we'll be happy to have a conversation. Country Classic Rentals, the freedom of ownership.
I wish I almost had a shed builder here with me, and we've talked about doing a little bit about that where we can maybe bring several builders on and discuss that,
right?
So that because they're going to have questions that sometimes go beyond the surface of what I know. I started in purchasing, so I have actually done some procurement, and I was specifically designated to the hardware side. So I did most sheds are only made of a few different components,
right.
And metal
right.
and wood's just about it. So I focused on T-handles, D-handles, hinges, and fasteners and metal and things like that, and with a secondary job where I would, order lumber. But primarily, this is right in my wheelhouse for my introduction to the shed industry as well, and that was spending time going over product. And I'm quite surprised I didn't run across you guys already years ago. So
you may have through a distributor.
It's possible.
Yeah, we sell a lot through distribution, and as you saw, we do. There's a whole section of our warehouse out there that's nothing but private labeled product that we make in our own factories, and we put somebody else's name on the box. So that could be woodworking screws, decking screws, hidden deck fasteners is another thing we didn't talk about. We probably have the largest variety of hidden deck fasteners for the composite decking industry that's available right now, and been doing it longer than anybody. We have been working with that type of fastener since I guess back whenever Trex first came out with their first composite deck board back in the late 70s. So
okay,
that industry has also evolved quite well with us, and we've adapted to that and fortunately been able to offer some pretty innovative products for that as well. So, but Tim's talking about our factories. Yeah, we have 2 factories in China. Usually I'm on the phone at least every Thursday night, able to move product up or back. Hey, Shannon needs this order brushed, so let's put that on the next container. We're very proud we have a manufacturing facility also in Ashland, Ohio, that makes a lot of the Atlas-type products there. They do a lot of the zinc die-cast heads, which is the ultimate screw, They cut closure like you see here. But one of the most impressive things that we do at any of those Atlas plants is paint. How many paint colors do we normally run on an average, Tim? How many are we inventorying and modifying and doing things like that?
When we brought other people into the fold, architectures and architectural people, at one point at Atlas we had 312 different colors that we painted, and I love it when people call in and say, I need a 10-inch-and-a-half roofing screw for a tin roof, and it needs to be white. Well, that's fine, but there's 18 whites. So which white do you want out of the 18? It gets a little more complicated from this end of it than
Sure.
There's a polar white, there's a cool white, there's a bright white.
That's right.
I remember that specifically from having to do color matching whenever we was ordering metal roof. Of course, we always had to consider. I think even as a shed company that I worked with, I think there was 4 or 5 different reds at that time that they would order, and you'd have to really keep an eye on the inventory if you weren't paying attention to the color matching screws. So.
Architects have added to those reds, by the way. There's a lot more than that.
Yeah, and some of the big roll formers, I mean, it's really the same color as their competitor, but they call it a different name.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like I've seen that for sure. Yeah, a couple different times. You guys kind of expand. And so, I mean, you're in several markets. Shed is a function of what you do. It's a side of what you do. There's a level of customer service there, but you're in, other areas that shed guys would know about. Right. Carports and metal structures and things like that. So you're doing fasteners for.
We do a lot with that. We do a lot with Tim does a lot with the freestanding carport industry. That type of thing. But we have a saying around here that unlike some of our sister companies, Pan American Screw has become a source for our customers. So if we don't have it, we don't say if it's not in the catalog you can't get it. We'll either go find it or see if you're using enough that we can make it or whatever it might be. And so that kind of makes us a little bit more well-rounded source, I think. But at the same time, if my boss ever happens to hear this, he'll remind me that that's why it's really difficult for us to juggle, literally 2,000 or 3,000 different SKUs here.
Right.
And you take one of those items, maybe this screw right here, we sell that in that finish, but we sell it in zinc and yellow zinc, and then we coat it for exterior use, and then we sell it in a 100-pack or a 1,000-pack or a full carton or a 1 pound or a 5 pound. So it's managing all of that inventory and trying to make sure we keep that right sized is a challenge, an everyday challenge. And our purchasing people, Caroline and Susie here, do a wonderful job at trying to manage that. Back whenever we were having when everybody was having all the supply chain issues, having our factory and then having the financial backing of the Marmon Group, who said, it looks like inventory is going to be king. You guys make sure that you're the ones that have it. So all of these goals that we have as far as working capital and how much inventory we should have on the shelf, they saw this opportunity coming, and so we were able to pick up new business while our competitors were saying, gee, I'm another 100 days out. I don't know when I'll be able to get it. And we were able to pick and choose and say, well, Shannon, if I can count on you for future business, I can take care of you now.
Yeah,
right? So,
that's right.
And we had to make some of those decisions. But in all, we weathered that storm. And our group as a whole, the whole fastener group, outpaced every other group within Marmon as far as how much growth we had and also profits. We're in business to make a profit.
Right.
We aren't business to overprice anything.
Always say, how dare you
that's
make
right.
a profit.
And fortunately that translates into pay rate increases for our employees. It helps their families, and then
with
things
inflation
like
that we're seeing,
exactly.
That's important. Yeah. There's so much more to it than I think people probably realize, because especially when you get into these, larger larger shed stores, I mean, they do have a whole, when you're smaller or you're vertically integrated or trying to scale your business, you wear a lot of hats as a small business owner. So there's no such thing as purchasing, because you become the hauler, the builder, the seller, the purchaser, and all of it. And that could kind of create a lot of demand, which kind of, limits your scalability at times when you take too much on. But whenever you do have these larger stores that are procuring, these things become a high point of topic, especially whenever the shed industry prides itself, and even the carport industry. You see a lot of times we'll talk about quality, quality, because quality sells more than price. Price sells, but quality is what people are. No one ever comes in and says, give me less quality. They only say, give me less price, right? So,
and we aren't the best price. We are not. We never have been, and don't intend to be, but we are fair. But wearing those hats reminds me of what we were talking about before we went on air. All of us have worn those hats. That's why we don't have any hair on top of our heads.
That's right. Yeah, we realized we all went to the same guy for a haircut, didn't we? Yeah. Like, that guy must be making, and he does one style.
That's it.
All the time.
Well, we didn't invite anybody in here that had hair, so and make us look bad. So
Tim and I have seen it over the years. I mean, years ago we've had large furniture companies that would literally shut a production line down because they failed to source a screw that cost 7 cents properly. And so you're sending 150 people home because of one fastener or one widget that put that box together, and you can't put it together, so you have to send people home. It takes a lot of planning for some of these people. And part of what we do is we have a process that we kind of came up with within our Marmon group is called PLS, and we'll go in with our customers and we'll go through everything that they're buying and go through and do what is a product line simplification with them. So we'll look at the SKUs that you're having to manage and say, okay, out of those, which ones are the most important? Which is we joke around here, we believe in the 80-20 principle. So what are the 20% of those items that you're needing fastener-wise that drive 80% of your business or 80% of your usage? And how do we take these other ones and maybe consolidate? Do I need to stock a 1 5/8 and a 1 3/4? Maybe I can bore that hole differently in that production line, and I can get by with the 1 3/4, which standardizes, maybe 3 production lines, and makes it a lot easier, and it makes it easier for procurement to be able to keep up with it. And we try to look for performance and features and benefits for a lot of our fasteners. So you'll find we carry a line that's maybe a price point line, but then maybe you're using hardwood and you're having to pre-drill to keep the wood from splitting, or pre-countersink to keep the wood from splitting when the head sinks flush. We have ways in manufacturing to put those features actually on the screw itself. So we can put a Type 17 cutter point at the end of it that actually acts as an auger as it goes in and like a drill bit. Or we can put in a nibs that go underneath a flathead screw that helps countersink itself, things like that. And those are things that when you're talking about, you're just forming the metal of the screw a little differently. It adds a lot of value, but it also saves our customers a lot of time. On some of our big timber products over there near Tim, you'll see they have a little knurl up on the shank there to help. That's to help carve out an area for the head to be able to sit in there snugly when it seats, to eliminate it from wanting to drill more at an angle. So there's things that we can do that, the average listener out there probably, they're probably using the same 5 or 6 screws that they've always used based off of what their supplier had. But when you're managing as much inventory and over a variety of different industries that we are, then that's where I've been with Pan American for 40 years.
Wow.
Came from the furniture industry and thought I would thought I would try this for a year or so. The president at that time kind of talked me into it. We played softball together and stuff like that. And he said, Phil, you'd be well at this. You'd love this. And I said, but, you know, I went to school for engineering. I'm not a sales guy, you know.
Yeah.
He says, no, we just want you to call on other engineers at furniture companies and this, that, and other. Well, you know, the joke was with my wife, I'd try it for a year or two, honey, until I can find something else. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the people. Tim's the same way. I mean, Tim and I are we work together, but we're really good friends too, because we both grew up in this company. And yeah, I had a full head of hair, and he did too. All right, but you know, the people that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, there's always a few outliers, but for the most part, you know, we've been really blessed in the fact that whether I'm dealing with the president of American Woodmark Cabinets or with Leroy Jones, Leroy's Frame Shop down here the road in Claremont, North Carolina, that's got tobacco spittle and sawdust on the top of his brogans. We've learned that we treat those people the same,
Sure,
and give them the same respect, and that's a good mirror to what the way we like to run our company here as well. So you know, we enjoy the people part. Like I said, for the most part, there's that 99 out of 100 are pretty good people, you know, but there's always that one, right?
yeah.
Let me say, kind of the motto around here is we have the financial backing. We're part of a much, much larger organization, but we actually truly, and I think you've seen that in the few moments you've been here today, is we operate like a small company. I mean, everything we do is personalized. You're not going to call in here. There's not going to be an answering machine grab you. You're always going to get a person. And we, you know, to that extent, we operate the way we started in 1957. We're that same company. Sure, we might have grown, but we still have that same personal mentality as it relates to business. We want to talk to you. We want to see you. We want to see the applications. We want to learn. That's the really neat thing about sales is every day I go out, I learn something. And that, what's the old saying? If you're learning, it's got to be a good day, right? If you learn something that day, it's going to be a good day.
Hello, shed sellers. Let's take a moment to discuss the shed customer and meeting their expectations. I remember growing up in the neighborhood where a certain percentage of the houses had well-manicured lawns and well-manicured homes. These were the type of individuals who felt it was important to purchase a well-constructed home or vehicle, or maybe equipment to help maintain the quality of the item. As shed manufacturers, we seek to provide a well-built quality shed. We want the customer to feel satisfied that their hard-earned money has been well spent on a product that will last. At LuxGuard, we believe adding high-quality rubber flooring to your line of sheds makes sense to the customer and adds value the customer can appreciate. With each year, sheds are becoming more complex. The customizations we are seeing are virtually endless. LuxGuard not only gives a complimentary aesthetic appearance for their shed, but also protects the floor from spills and keeps cleanup simple. Offer your customer the customer service they seek with LuxGuard. At LuxGuard, we are committed to delivering exceptional customer service and innovative products to help our customers achieve their goals. We strive to meet the evolving needs of the customers. To speak with one of our ready-to-serve customer product specialists, simply call 336-468-4311. To see our product and view an installation video, just visit our website at luxguard.com. LuxGuard, the floor that lasts a lifetime.
Well, everything for me at this point is sort of history related or knowledge based. I mean, even whenever I watch television anymore, I like to watch documentaries more from the educational perspective because I kind of see how the world came together or tried to through educating myself with history and just different things. A lot of guys used to tease me and make fun of me that I work with because every time I go to a city, first thing I'll do is like try to learn everything about that city, the median income in the area, the population, the history of how it came together.
Yeah.
What drives the economy in that area. And maybe that comes from living in a small town where you didn't see nothing. we played baseball. Matter of fact, we played baseball, but we could it was hard to get a team together, and most times such a small one. And we called, I don't know if it's politically correct or not. I'm not in the National Football League, but we called this Indian ball at the time, and I don't even know what that meant. We didn't either. But for us, it meant we had 2-on-2, and that's all we could play. So we had to shorten the field. And my dad worked at a kitty litter plant. Outside of that, he did construction, and it's a wonder we didn't end up, sometime in the shed industry or something. Who knows? But no, I get what you're saying. The larger the organization, sometimes the struggle that can come is that customer expects that with a larger organization you become more corporate minded, and when you can maintain that focus on the customer. And you said something that I think was key. You said whenever you call, we answer the phone.
That's right.
Communication in the shed industry is huge.
Yeah. It's no dial 1 for not here. No, dial 1 for purchasing or dial 2 for sales. No, it's hey, this is Jay or Randy or Rita, and how can I help you? Right. So
if you were here,
or Chris, I can't forget that one.
If you were here, you would see that one thing that I tell people is we're 5 minutes from a FedEx building. We all have trunks. So there's no problem too big. FedEx is open till 7. If you call me at 5 and say I need something, we'll get it there. Because again, it's the old school mentality. I hate to call it that, but it's truly what it is. I mean,
it worked for a reason, though.
It's relational, and I've had a guy call me and say, "Hey, I need these white screws," and I throw them in the trunk and meet him halfway, and we do what we need to do. Now, do we want to do that every day? No, but I think Phil will agree, because he sees us loading up screws, that at least once a week we're taking something to someone or to FedEx to help someone out, and hopefully that means something to somebody at some point in time. But it's just standard business for us.
So what are you guys getting into the depths of, like, sheds means a lot of things. The one thing that I'm starting to learn after 140 episodes that I didn't know is sheds means a lot of things to a lot of people. Probably if you were a shed hauler, typical shed is something it's portable that you can move because you bought the equipment and the rig to do such a thing. But on-site builds are very common, garages, carports, large metal structures, things that are still stick built or tube steel that, not necessarily red iron, which I'm sure you guys probably work in that capacity too at times with, your fasteners. But what do you guys typically see? What's your approach at educating a shed builder specifically? What do you guys recommend, and what are kind of the things that you guys would approach them with?
Well, as you said, the materials vary. One thing is our post frame screw. If you go just a regular post frame type shed, we have a special thread construction on ours, which allows it to drive a little easier, less threads per inch, so it drives a little faster. And actually, we don't lose any of the holding power with the features we have by thread angle. So one gentleman was looking for screws during COVID. He said, I'm out. I'm going to send somebody up to get something. They're going to bring a credit card. We gave it to him. He called me 2.5 hours later, and he said, what did you do to these screws? My guys and gals are going crazy out here. He said, the fastest, best screws they've ever run in their life. And I said, it's just a little bit different makeup with the thread configuration, as Phil was alluding to earlier. So it really depends on application by application. There's, sheds are similar, but there's no cookie cutter recipe out there. So it's getting on site, seeing what they're doing it with. And as Phil said, he's been around here for 180 years. I came from the lumber industry over in 89, so I'm sneaking up third quarter on 34 years. And fortunately or unfortunately, as you look at it, it's all we know. So when we're on site, we're constantly looking at applications, product being used, to see if there's a better way to do it that we could recommend. We never state it. or B, learn from what they're doing. And we look at each different site as proprietary. So I'm not going from a location to another saying, well, down the road they're doing it this way. That's not the way we operate. But we do go back and look to learn for ourselves. And then if someone asks us, we know what we might be able to recommend. But we manufacture post-frame screws, as I said, and also for freestanding carports or for someone who's manufacturing a building with metal framing, we have a drill point screw, which we stock many, many millions of with or without washer. So as you and I discussed, there's some crossover between the two. I still view them as separate entities, separate industries, but there is some crossover there. And we stock unpainted, zinc plated, which is zinc, a silver in color, I'm sorry, for the carport industry. We're not painting at this point, just for volume purposes. But, and then as we said, we have the big timber line, which is primarily Torx drive, and we've gone as far with that as last week a gentleman couldn't get hex heads to put his roll-up door units in his buildings. So we gave him a large washer, internal drive, Torx drive, and now he's installing those with that particular product, as well as tying off his 2x4s and 2x6s with the longer length of the same product. Exterior coated, so it's not going to rust if you leave a door open and rain blows in for whatever reason.
And with these structural fasteners, like the BTX or the wafer head, the WTX and things like that, they're all ICC or DRJ certified. So, they meet industry standards on each of the boxes. Probably not necessarily the small ones here, but on all of our boxes, it's
on the corner.
We have a QR code that you can just scan that and go straight to the technical evaluation report there, so that if an inspector on the job site needs to see something, you can just scan that, and right there's your documentation that these are certified and this is structural, and all the structural data as far as bend and break and torque testing and all that type of stuff is right there at your fingertips. So.
The QR's not on here, but the Dr. J's.
Yeah.
Well, and that's probably going to matter, I especially think I know that a lot of companies do get engineered drawings for their sheds, but sheds is going beyond even that into the tiny home market.
It has.
So
when you're tying in here, you're tying in your substrate structure, your subfloors, tying in your rafters and things like that. That's these structural lags. The way people did it before, they would pre-drill and use like a hex lag screw or something like that, and drive it in with a ratchet. This is a little smaller diameter, but because they're heat treated and the way the thread configuration is, it holds much better and much easier, and you're not having to pre-drill. You're just installing them like you'd put drywall screws in.
You're not using that large diameter that you would with a soft lag, and you get the same or better values out of a heat-treated, smaller construction lag that we have here with an internal drive, a Torx drive.
Yeah, and most of these are heat-treated to where the larger structural lags that we do, they're really forgiving. So if they'll bend almost up to 90 degrees before they will break. So it's not like they're brittle. It's like that they're strong. And so as expansion and contraction, or as riding down the road on the back of a truck to the destination, we have shed builders that really like our BTX screws or our composite deck screws, because they like to screw the subfloors down, because it keeps the subfloors from shifting around, and also from bubbling up. I guess I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of right now, but it'll also keep it down a lot firmer instead of just shooting a couple nails in it.
Okay. Yeah. I see. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
We have a lot of home builders that are using threaded fasteners, our threaded fasteners, to do subfloors, because it eliminates squeaks. That's not big. That's not so important in a shed.
Yeah.
But the fact is that it allows it to be there for a longer period of time with much greater holding power. So as you're moving stuff or sliding stuff or parking a tractor or a mower on top of it or something, it's going to stay where it's supposed to be.
Hello, shed sellers. Did you get a chance to view the Real Work Labs interview featuring George Converse? If not, be sure to check out the episode, where you can see a condensed demo during the interview. Just go to the Shed Geek Podcast YouTube channel and type in Real Work Labs. George and the team at Real Work Labs have received an influx of interest and new signups, and they are already working to provide real results. Real Work Labs shapes the way customers find you online. We are a software company that helps shed sellers like you get found where the customers live, not where your shed lot is. Our mobile app in the field hooks into your website, so your work and Google reviews are getting found on the map on location. That way, you drive more revenue, higher conversion rates, and true word-of-mouth referrals online. It's time to put your reviews on the map and leave a digital yard sign at your job sites using Real Work Labs. For more information, just go to shedgeek.realworklabs.com or simply call or text 480-787-7575. Mention the Shed Geek Podcast for special pricing and get a 50% discount on setup today.
You've already explored that market. I mean, especially, you guys mentioned Warren Buffett earlier. Me and Tim was kind of talking about that, the Berkshire Hathaway company, and that's, I think, the owner of Clayton. So you guys probably sell into a market that's, modular.
Yes, sir.
And you are seeing some shed guys that are getting modular certificates because of the way that trying to reach affordable housing is getting to the point of, trying to find smaller housing that might still meet the international building codes of, say, like 900 square feet, for instance, or something. So not really tiny, but still smaller and maybe more affordable. So you guys are already prepared to work in a market that's even has higher requirements than the sheds.
That's correct. Right. Yes, absolutely.
And a lot of the shed builders that we have dealt with, and as Tim says, I mean, it's fun to go on some of the larger companies to see how automated they are and some of the things that they do.
Right.
We have specialty screws with a black protective coating that's used to usually hold the hinges and the locks and things like that on them. We put a special bugle head on it so that it sits flush with the hardware. I mean, little things like that make a big difference. I'm sure there's probably not listening to your podcast, Shannon, but there's Chuck in a truck out there that's building a shed that's just using glorified drywall screws or whatever he can get his hands on.
Yep.
What we're seeing is the quality of these sheds and garages in particular. They're really going up toward that tiny home or tiny houses. Sure. Tim threatens his wife Trish. He's going to build some tiny houses, I think, and they're going to retire in them. But
absolutely.
Well, it's kind of crazy how, 40 years ago, I mean, there was a shed market. It was probably very minimal, but as you got into this, I mean, what it looked like then if you were trying to sell to some guy doing, outbuildings?
Well, I mean, years ago when we first started in the business, we were going up Interstate 77 north up into Mount Airy and Cana, Virginia, because they were building aluminum camper tops for the back of your pickup trucks. Oh. I mean, and there was a screw every 6 inches.
Right.
But that's now those people up there in those factories are building sheds and they're building carports and garages and things like that. So the industry is really growing, and as a company, we're looking to add more product to be able to supply that, so that our customers can basically be that one-stop shop that Tim's talking about. Atlas, the Atlas brand within our company, they're bringing out a caulking product called Utilibond, to go with some of our newer closures and things like that, to where all of that can be shrink-wrapped and put on the same pallet, right? And so that helps our customers meet prepaid freight minimums and little things like that can help us be more important to our customers. So.
Gosh, it has changed so much. I feel like I'm around fastener royalty. I feel like we should be calling you the fastener geeks. Maybe, I don't know. I'm sure you guys have you have knowledge beyond what the average person would have, and for a shed builder, I'm sure it makes sense to take the time to do an exploratory phone call or to at least have a conversation with you, just especially if they're doing R&D. I mean, if you're at a point to where one of the multiple hats you can wear, or you can have somebody working inside of your industry to do that. We had that when I was in purchasing, and it was I mean, I think that's the game changer, especially when you do things like talk about quality. But I'm sure that you guys have something that needs to meet a price point market for somebody who's just wanting to assembly line sheds and get them out like the Ford did. We just want to get as many cookie cutter sheds out there as possible, and there's a market for both high customization, I'm sure, and then also quantity over quality. Tim, how did you land into this? What was you just like, hey, I want to be a fastener connoisseur?
I actually worked for a individual-owned lumber company, individually owned lumber company in Statesville, North Carolina, and it was right out of a 2-year college in Mitchell, in community college in Statesville, and I worked for them part-time, and when I left Mitchell, I went to work for them full-time, and knew people working within this company, and thought it would be a good opportunity, as Phil said, to broaden my horizons at the time, just a young guy. And as I grew into the company, I started in the warehouse, and I won't go through the many steps I've taken to get where I am, because there's quite a few, but I learned what this company was about. And once I was here for 5, 6, 7 years, I believed in this company, and I knew what they were doing. I knew how they operated, and I knew this is where I wanted to be. And I've moved around within the company. I've moved around within the entire organization, but never thought didn't grow up saying I don't want to be a fireman. I want to be a screw guy. Yeah. That was never the intent, but
I left Western Carolina thinking I want to be a screw salesman.
So I took business and accounting, and so that was going to be the path forward. But then when I got into the screw industry and it bit me, I stayed with it.
Pun intended.
Yeah, and I stayed with it, and it's been great. It really has. I've met a lot of great people in a lot of different industries. As we began the discussion, we touch a large number of industries, from cabinet and furniture through window and shed, and I've been fortunate enough to meet people in all those different categories, and it's been a good trip, and I'm looking forward to more of it.
Well, you guys are not just knowledgeable and fastener geeks. You're personable, and I know that's something that 40 years, 30 plus some odd years is going to create relational, and you guys have learned relational sales Definitely. Works.
Yes, sir.
It's important. I don't know how to separate my work from my relationship with a lot of these folks that I interview, that I work with, that I advertise. I mean, just you name it, they kind of become a part of it. And that's why I believe that everybody has a story. Everybody has a shed story. Most people don't just wake up the same feel and say, hey, I want to, sell sheds for a living. I mean, you could be a second, third generation shed builder. Dad was moving sheds or hauling sheds, and you want to do that too. But typically speaking, you sort of fall into it. And I mean, you can't even go to college. Well, maybe now you can, but get a degree in sales, So, I mean, most salesmen even just kind of fall into that category. So you sort of fall in love with the product, the process, but it's the people business. I don't care what anybody says. It's the people business. Screws is just the avenue that you guys, fasteners, that's how you got to meet people. But Absolutely. It's still about your internal processes and how you do things. And
trust. Developing the trust and proving to your customer or who you're dealing with that you are trustworthy. I mean, I was joking with one of our suppliers yesterday that's about my same age, and we were laughing how younger people this day and time, maybe they don't view things like we do, but our motto growing up was, I'm not smart enough to be a good liar, so I'm just going to have to tell you the truth because I don't want to have to remember what I told you,
right.
3 years ago.
Right.
And, but, here we've been fortunate that, when times are tough and you're part of a larger group of companies, there's solidity there. There's a base there. But for us, they let us run this company. Corporate allows us to run the company the way Tim and Derek and I want to run the company. And it's more, not to get sappy, but it's more golden rule based than it is anything else.
Yeah.
We try to treat, like I said, that one guy that has 4 employees the same as the guy that's got 1,040 employees. And when we are attentive and we react and we deliver on our promises, I could be selling microphones. Right. It'd be the same thing, Shannon.
That's right.
It's no different. But it makes it sound simple, but it's not so simple. But fortunately for Tim and I, we've been blessed to be in this business for a good while, and have been fortunate enough to have a group of employees behind us that's supporting what we do out there, to where we know we can trust them. So that trust and respect goes through many levels of this whole process. Whether my nephew Sammy Lail, who works for Union Grove Lumber, he's probably listening to this right now.
Just
Sammy.
left Union Grove Lumber.
Not much different, than you selling hardwoods and lumber than us selling fasteners here.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I got you back, right?
Yeah.
That's what it all amounts to. So.
Well, I'm got a chance to meet you guys down at Greenville at the Garage Shed Carport Builders Show. Certainly sat right next to you in a booth, and I'm sitting there chatting with you, and I'm like, gosh, these guys are really easy to talk to and great conversationalists, and you don't always get that. And I was thankful that I could get a chance to meet you guys while I was down there. Certainly appreciate everything you do. I encourage shed builders out there, and maybe you guys, maybe in the future, I won't hold you to this since we're talking about it on air instead of off air, but maybe we can get a show where we can get a bunch of builders together on a Zoom call, or maybe we can bring them together and show some video of how the different fasteners actually perform.
Right.
And I really think that that's what people want to see, so they can get a visual of sort of understanding that. And I'm sure you've got some marketing stuff that's out there if they do want to go see some of that.
I have a seminar that I wrote several years ago called Fastening 101 that basically walks you through from how to measure and identify a fastener or a thread or where it needs to be used. If any of your viewers want a copy, I can email them a PDF of it. I mean, it's just a reference to have, basically.
Sure.
Why do you use this fastener for this application? I mean, there's different things too that set us apart. We probably use some of the more expensive but more highly rated coatings for exterior fasteners than some companies do. If you go to, I'm not going to mention it, but you go to a big box type store, you're probably going to get a fastener that's been rated at around 500 salt spray hours. That's a test that we do within the fastener industry called a ASTM B117. That's actually an accelerated test in a chamber, controlled chamber, because you don't have time for me to test that screw for 30 years to tell you if it's going to last. Right. So we have an accelerated test where most of ours are running 1,500 to 1,800 hours. There's subtle differences out there, and that's what separates a quality fastener from just a standard fastener. I mean, there's different qualities in everything that we consume on a daily basis.
Well, we'll make sure when we send the episode out, we don't just send them out on Spotify and all Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We like to try to put an email blast out every week, and we'll make sure to put a bio in there, and we'll link to your website. So if somebody wants to go check out your website, but how would they reach you guys if they wanted to get a hold of you? They enjoy the podcast and say, hey, I want to call those guys up and at least do an exploratory phone call and see if they've got something that makes sense for us. How would they reach you?
We make it very difficult. It's 1-800-951-2222. 2222 for our call-in number, and they can visit our website.
Which is under construction right now, by the way.
Yeah. It's a static page right now. But
Gotcha.
It's www.panamericanscrew.com, and they can email sales@panamericanscrew.com. Or they can come by the show that you'd mentioned, just a brief plug.
Sure.
As we will be in Tennessee this coming fall for another show, and would really enjoy meeting some of your listeners and
absolutely
answering any questions we may at that show. They can also email me at tim.white, and that's is in the color, WHITE, at PAN, P-A-N, AmericanScrew.com.
Guys, I appreciate you being flexible with your schedule. Your knowledge of fasteners is it's impressive. But then there's a part of where does that meet the sale, so to speak. And I do believe people buy from people they trust. So I think as impressive as 70-something years of fastener knowledge in this room alone, outside of that, it's so much about personality. So I feel confident if they give you a call, you're going to take care of them. I certainly encourage the listeners to do that for those shed builders. And if you're a shed builder who wants to know more, or you want to be a part of the process, give me a call. I would love to schedule a time where we could do a webinar series or do a Zoom call where we could have professionals on that could answer those questions in detail. And who knows, maybe we can get some video to go along with that in the future. But I hope they'll give you a call. What was the number again, Tim?
It's 1-800-951-2222.
Appreciate you guys doing this today. And it's the weekend. It's time to get out of here.
So all of those naysayers that say that fastener salesmen go home early on Friday.
It's what time?
It's 4:00. And it looks like we're getting ready to have a good old North Carolina thunderstorm outside, too. So that'll be good. But,
well, I'll tell you what, I don't know. You probably need the rain like we do at home.
Are you going back home tonight? Or
I think we're gonna hang out and drive in tomorrow. We're going to have to plan another trip here coming up. I don't know. I've been needing to go to Michigan. We've been all over this year already. So we got to get home next week because we got a lot of editing to do.
Right.
You know, so
Right.
Well, we appreciate you coming, Shannon. We really do. And look forward to seeing you in Knoxville. And
I'll be there. I can't wait.
If any of your listeners need either Tim or myself, we literally are a phone call away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It says a lot. I can't speak enough for getting a live person whenever you call somebody. It means so much. Guys, thank you. Have a great weekend and try to stay dry, it looks like.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Shannon.
it. Thank you.